What's happening, guys? Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the new Star Wars themed virtual pinball machine from Arcade1UP. This is Steve from Restalgia, and let's get started. Alright, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing to the channel. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to take a look at the new Star Wars cabinet that has been recently shipping from Arcade1UP. Zen Studios partnered with Arcade1UP on this machine, and we do get 10 of these Star Wars themed tables from the Zen Studio pinball lineup built right into this machine. Now, I was able to get this machine from The Brick here in Canada, and it cost a whopping $800 plus taxes and shipping, bringing this device landed to a cool $1,000 Canadian. So given the price I paid, I did have a certain level of expectations for it, and in many ways it did absolutely meet those expectations. However, there are a number of areas where the machine fell short, and we're going to talk about all of that in this review. Now, the first point of conversation is the design and overall look, and I would be lying if I said this machine wasn't absolutely stunning. Arcade1UP has always and continues to do these machines justice in the way that they look overall and their graphical design. The artwork is well done and appeals to both the classic Star Wars fan with the artwork from the original trilogy on the left panel, but also to a newer, younger generation of fans who did really like the latest episodes in the series release. The form factor is excellent, and it really does look like a smaller scale pinball machine. All of the Arcade1UP pinball devices come with a really nice realistic feeling plunger, although it does have some issues, and a modest but acceptable 24-inch playfield. The machine also comes with 4 solenoids, which really help to give a good auditory feedback while you are playing. Additionally, I was originally worried about the height of the machine, but was pleasantly surprised by the stock height that it did come out of the box. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, and I had absolutely no issues whatsoever playing on the machine at the default height that it did come out of the box. The physical build of the machine itself is pretty impressive and could very easily be one of the best products in terms of build quality to ever come out of Arcade1UP. The machine legs are very, very high quality, they are solid, and with the matching lockdown bar and rails, it really ties the machine together aesthetically. I will also mention that this is the first product that I've ever purchased from Arcade1UP that did not come in at least one way or another damaged out of the box, and that's saying a lot since I've purchased well over 15 different devices from them. I also decided to do a small teardown on this machine to find out exactly what it was running inside. Now, obviously, with more advanced software and graphical requirements, they did need to upgrade the type of SoC that they were using for these pinball machines, and they are currently running an all-winner H6 V200 chipset, which has a quad-core ARM Cortex A53 CPU, coupled with a Mali T720 multi-core GPU. Additionally, the machine is also running with 512 megabytes of DDR3 RAM. Now, I did mention the build quality being fairly good, but there are some noticeable exceptions. The flipper buttons do feel like the low quality buttons that we are used to on all the other Arcade1UP devices, and this is 100% a personal preference thing, but in my opinion, the buttons that they use on these devices are some of the worst I've ever felt on any arcade product released in the market. The display is a 23.8-inch LCD, which has the ability to output in 1080p, however, due to the performance of the board, it will only display in 720p resolution. Now, to me, this really isn't a big deal. However, one thing that Arcade1UP should have done is better optimize the screen display settings for things like color contrast, sharpness, brightness, and the backlight. I think Arcade1UP left the display on the stock settings that would have come out of the manufacturer, and this is really, really noticeable by its overall washed out appearance. They could have made the display literally look twice as good had they just optimized these settings. This is very noticeable on tables where we are used to seeing bright colors, or even on some of the tables that just had minor color variants. Unfortunately, everything just seems to mush together and the screen is overall a little bit of a disappointment at best. I will say though that the screen size was less of an issue than I originally anticipated. The 24-inch monitor was perfectly reasonable to play with these games. The machine also does come equipped with a 7.5-inch secondary monitor, which is used as your DMD screen, but this in many ways is more disappointing than the main playfield. Like the main display, it is really washed out and the contrast is poor, but more so than this, it feels like a giant waste of space. At any given time, the DMD only takes up about half of the vertical height, so there's always these black bars above and below your display. And although I understand the idea of trying to keep to the original aspect ratio of a DMD monitor, this is really something that they should have stretched the image, or better yet, just have created a custom aspect ratio for this device, especially since all of these games are digital creations and they're not really based on any real life machines. So this just kind of felt a little bit lazy to me. Moving on to the haptics, I think that Arcade1UP did a reasonably good job here. They included 4 solenoids and they do sound awesome. You can't really feel them though. That being said, they were advertised as something you could really feel and I didn't think that I could feel them, and if I could, it was really weak. But they are very responsive and do make the machines sound very authentic. Now, I will have a video coming out in the next day or so showing you guys how you can make a minor mod to this machine that doesn't cost you anything but will substantially improve the feel of the haptics, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that video. I would also like to note that after about 3 or so days of playing, it sounded like one of the solenoids for my right flipper is starting to fail, and you can kind of hear that there is a noticeable change in sound over the other 3 solenoids. Now, I did take them apart, and unfortunately Arcade1UP did not provide any part numbers or data as to what solenoids they are using, so finding a suitable replacement will be less than ideal, and this does make sense if they are using a relatively cheap solenoid from a non-reputable supplier. However, I do wish they would have at least included the baseline information to make it easier for those needing to do replacements to do so. Moving into the software, I will not be showing much footage of each game in the video, but if you would like to see another video showcasing off gameplay from each table, let me know in the comments section down below and I will make a separate video. Overall, the UI is excellent. Everything is very easy to navigate and there is little to no confusion about how to get this machine running and into a game. This is something that Arcade1UP does incredibly well. The gameplay itself is very good and exactly what you would expect coming from playing a Zen Studios pinball experience. The physics are on point and the gameplay is fluid and strong. The gameplay feels natural and in sync. Absolutely no issues here on that front. Although the screen resolution is outputting at 720p, the onboard assets have been substantially reduced to much lower than this. As a result, we are getting jagged edges on things that should have a smooth, crisp, clean line, and the artwork and characters can also look rough and blurry. Based on the SoC they are using, I believe they could have probably seriously improved this with a little bit more time and better optimization. However, for the general consumer, this is probably good enough. And I understand as a technical YouTuber and reviewer, these are the types of things that I'm going to notice, and my expectations are a bit higher than average. But I would have liked to see them improve this because nobody would have complained about better quality art assets. We also have access to a lot of options like toggling things like ball trails, pop-up scores, and even a digital switch for turning off and on the solenoids. This is really awesome that it can all be adjusted right in the settings of any particular game. We can even recalibrate the plunger, which is cool. However, the plunger has about a 20% dead spot at the end of the pull action, even after immediately calibrating, which does feel really sloppy. This is something that could have easily been fixed in software, but perhaps Arcade1UP and Zen Studios felt it was good enough to ship it the way it is. One major issue I had was the supposed nudge support that was built into this machine. And don't get me wrong, it does have an accelerometer, but the settings are very poorly optimized. There is is no way to recalibrate it, and it really doesn't work well. You have to really push the machine hard for it to even be noticeable. And when I first started playing, I actually didn't even think it had a nudge feature at all. It was that bad. Not only does it need a heavy movement for it to respond at all, there's also a major delay in the time the accelerometer detects the nudge to when it's actually triggered, and that kind of felt like it was nearly a half-second or longer delay. This was actually pretty disappointing, and I can see this being problematic for people who are just not physically strong enough or kids to push the cabinet that hard to make it trigger. This could have easily been remedied with physical nudge buttons on the side for those who didn't want to make use of that accelerometer. Game selection was great on this machine, and I did have a ton of fun playing the included titles. Each game has the ability to play upwards to 4 players, which is great for parties or anything like that. However, I do think there's some issues with the high score system, as not all high scores saved all the time, and this was most noticeable on games when I was playing 4 players. Additionally, some of the default high scores are set incredibly high, making it really hard to even break the top 10. This is only the case on a few tables because almost every other table I was able to break the #1 score with little to no issues. This just leads me to believe that the couple of tables with these difficult to reach scores just simply weren't set correctly in the actual software. Now, coming around full circle, do I think this machine is worth the price tag? Ultimately, I need to disregard the fact that it cost me so much here in Canada, so I'll be basing my opinion on a $5.99 US price point. In that case, I would say that it is a fair value, but certainly not a great value. For the person looking for a display piece or something to show off visually, there really is not a better product in the market for this. That being said, the device does leave a little bit to be desired, but it is probably good enough that people will be happy with their purchase. But that is pretty much all I've got for you guys in this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it and a thumbs down if you didn't. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of this machine. Do you want to see a dedicated gameplay video showing off all the different titles? If so, let me know down below. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will talk to you guys again real soon.